We've attended and heard 13 cases before the Use of Force Review Board. So sometimes the Use of Force Review Board meets monthly, but sometimes we hear multiple cases during that monthly meeting. So just to do a deeper dive into some of those accomplishments, as I noted, this year we started teaching at the NOPD Academy, and we've received really positive feedback on our courses. We've also provided a lot of recommendations to the NOPD Academy that have been very well received. And these recommendations include incorporating the district attorney's office into report writing training to ensure that there's successful criminal prosecutions through better police reports. We've recommended a course on how officers should engage with individuals that have developmental disabilities or other disabilities that might influence that member of the community to comprehend information or commands that are being given to them by the NOPD, and how the NOPD can better navigate those situations to ensure that there's no unnecessary escalation. And the Academy is very open to that, and I believe they are going to be offering that course in 2024. The Academy also requested to continue the collaboration with our office to continue teaching active listening. And this year, we're also teaching more courses on how to strengthen misconduct investigations. And we are going to continue to teach that for new supervisors next year. In 2023, we released a report on the secondary employment system. This was a way to be able to bookend a lot of the investigations that took place in the earlier part of 2023 and in 2022 regarding believed misconduct in the secondary employment system. We released this report to explain the various reforms that were put into place after these investigations, including system integration between the systems that operated within the NOPD to keep time and the Office of Police Secondary Employment. Additional training that occurred to explain all policies and expectations to officers who are completing secondary employment, and more training for supervisors, so that way they know how to better approve time cards and look for discrepancies in time cards. As a result of a lot of the work and recommendations that were provided by our office and an intense collaboration and partnership with the Professional Standards and Accountability Bureau, we have seen huge improvements in being able to better identify potential misconduct in the secondary employment system and eliminate opportunities for misconduct in the secondary employment system. Earlier this year, we released a tool, an informational guide on how police chiefs have historically been selected in the NOPD and what are considerations that are being weighed nationwide when selecting a strong leader for a police department. We released this informational guide to the public, and then we did a series of meetings with partners to be able to walk them through this guide as they were engaging in the police chief search process and providing public comment to the city council and to governmental leaders. We would meet with them and discuss different concerns or different questions that could be raised. So that way the public felt equipped and empowered to be able to ask for what they wanted in a police chief. This year, we monitored a series of investigations that were conducted by the Public Integrity Bureau that ranged from Officer Vappy's investigation, which we know has received a lot of press, but also investigations into how the NOPD was responding to calls of service and whether they were rendering medical aid when they needed to, and issues around uses of force. We put countless hours into monitoring these investigations and providing real-time recommendations to the NOPD to be able to not just improve that individual investigation, but to make systemic changes to improve investigations overall.
Stella, can I'm yeah. Sorry. Have you had a chance to read Judge Morgan's order yet?
Yes, I have.
And how are the things that are being suggested in the order being implemented, if you know?
So we're still digesting the remedial strategy that was put forth by Chief Kirkpatrick, and we have been working very closely with the Professional Standards and Accountability Bureau on reimagining a lot of the misconduct policies that were named in the order. So I do have faith that a lot of those policy recommendations will address the concerns that were brought up in the order. And then I think that there's some places where potentially the consent decree could be modified to better reflect the practice that's actually happening in the NOPD in the case of like proxy signatures for the superintendent over disciplinary matters. That feels like a very reasonable modification to ask for. And same with some of the timeline requirements, seeing how timelines have changed under the Officer Bill of Rights. So it would make sense to have those timelines match. And we are going to be meeting weekly with, I believe, the Deputy Chief of the Public Integrity Bureau, which I do think will help with information sharing. I mean, I feel like I do need to say that the order did not consider maybe some of the politics that might have been behind some of the decision-making that was executed by the NOPD, but maybe not created by the NOPD. And I feel as oversight that it's my obligation to bring up that I have worked very closely with leadership at the NOPD that has shown a very robust commitment to following their policies, but a lot of confusion when there's orders that contradict with those policies. And I think that providing more clarity about where elected officials, mayors, and other governmental leaders fit in the chain of command over the NOPD would really help. Because when you're asked to complete something that contradicts your policy and the spirit of what you're trying to do as a department, that's a very unfair position to be put in. And I would have liked to have seen the order parse through that a little bit more, because as highlighted, the whole city is under this consent decree, not just one department. However, one department is going to be held up. Their failures are going to be held up publicly, and other departments maybe not so much so.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just selfishly from our perspective, when you say that last part, it rings very true for us, is that the city is not just this administration or any administration or just the NOPD. It is the council also as a client. And we have grave concerns, at least I do, about some of the language also the court used about how information was presented to the court. And we want to ensure that we are reaching sustainment on a due and timely course, but that also means fundamental fairness for everybody who's a cop.
I think the consent, I completely agree. And I think the consent decree is an opportunity for us to be unified in a shared vision for the NOPD. And that means that it has to be shared from the top down.
And obviously community part of it as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Stella.
I'm happy to report that the public facing database, a project that started with Council Vice President Moreno, is now finally coming into fruition. My understanding is that the RFP is now live. No, on Monday it will be live. Hopefully Monday it will be live. Anyone who's watching this who has the ability to sign off on the final steps of that RFP, please, Monday, may it be live. And anyone who's watching this who might be a potential vendor, please submit your bids. We look forward to building this public facing database in partnership with the NOPD and with other community partners. We have a very robust mock-up of what that database could look like. And we're very excited to make this a reality for everyone to be able to access more information about the NOPD and about officer disciplinary history. Just recently, we released a report about critical incidents and about police reforms that have been put into place to be able to better serve those that have been affected by officer-involved violence and officer-involved shootings and force. And whether ultimately that force is found to be justified or not, authorized or not, or fit within policy or not, every single one of these incidents matters and affects members of our community. And our community includes officers. So these reform efforts that were spearheaded by the community organization Families Overcoming Injustice considered the mental health of officers, the mental health needs and support needs of officers, training of officers, but also how family members of those who have been killed in police encounters, how they're treated, what information they receive, and how that loved one's body is handled by the NOPD, and whether they receive medical aid and medical care and respect on the scene. And I'm very happy to report that every recommendation put forth was adopted by the NOPD, and not just adopted, but implemented. It's actually in process now. And I think it has directly impacted the way that officers are behaving on scenes in a far more respectful manner, and that families feel far more included and informed in this horrible process that they might have to go through. So we released this report, and we worked with Families Overcoming Injustice to hold our community vigil for the National Day Against Police Brutality, which was held in October. We released an annual report, which was our opportunity to do a deep dive into policing data that's available within the NOPD, and that's available on our website. We would love for more people to check it out and to learn more about our work and about policing and the state of policing in New Orleans. So now transitioning to our goals, looking ahead in 2024, how we intend to use taxpayer dollars in an ethical and economical way to be able to further oversight. We want to release more informational guides. We want to strengthen our public, our ability to be a public resource and to offer technical assistance to the NOPD. And we want to do that through releasing more informational guides and tools, whether it's about how police departments across the country are responding to topical issues like stunt driving, or it's guides about how to get your property back from evidence and property, or how to get a police report changed, or how policing might change during festival season and at Mardi Gras routes. We want to provide that information to the community, so we're doing proper expectation management, but also that we're helping the community navigate the often complicated policing structures that exist and find more resources, support, and services for whatever issue they might be facing. I'm also going to just make a plug that every year the Victims Reparation Fund goes underutilized on a state level. So anyone who's watching this who might be eligible, please talk to the social workers that are now stationed at a lot of our NOPD police districts about how to be able to access those valuable funds. We want to create a virtual public archive. We are working with civil rights attorney Mary Howell to be able to find a place on our website to be able to offer a public archive. So that way we are acting as institutional memory for the public to be able to learn more about how policing occurred in the 90s and the early 2000s, the 80s, and beyond, and be able to use us as a resource. For the second year in a row, I'm standing up here saying that we intend to build a 24-hour hotline. We hit a lot of bumps in the road this last year with the vendor that we selected through our RFP process. And so we are re-releasing our RFP. Again, if there's any potential vendors watching, please watch our website and apply. In 2024, we want to further develop our misconduct and force departments. This means that we want to conduct more case reviews, evaluating misconduct investigations. We want to conduct a high-level audit of PIB's intake and classification process. We want to find more ways to communicate out and document what's happening in the use of force review boards. And we want to fulfill our charter obligations by providing more information about lawsuits, claims, and appeals that are happening out of NOPD actions. We want to expand our mediation program, and we started making a lot of strong progress in this field this year. This year, we got approval from the Department of Justice, the NOPD, and the federal monitors to expand our mediation program to include post-investigation mediation. This is a new opportunity that we will start to offer in 2024 for individuals after their misconduct allegation is investigated But they still feel that they want an opportunity to sit down with that member of the NOPD and discuss their concerns, we're going to offer mediation to those individuals. We're also putting forth a district-based mediation pilot. So based on feedback and requests that we've received from district captains, we're going to be launching a pilot mediation program that will be available for the community to be able to utilize our mediation in lieu of having to call 911 to be able to resolve ongoing issues that might exist between neighbors or between that district and that member of the community. This will just be a peaceful and productive environment to address the underlying conflict that might exist around law enforcement or outside of law enforcement's control. And we're also going to be offering internal mediation for NOPD employees. This has been a long-standing request we've received from the NOPD, and we're going to formalize that process. So in 2024, we also intend to build more formalized community engagement opportunities. We are increasing our role in the police community advisory boards. We have started doing that this year. We've been attending more of these police community advisory boards, and we want to play a larger role in 2024. Ideally, these boards should be more engaged with the work of our office, policing projects, and with the decisions being made within NOPD. They are an untapped resource, and we want to see that voice become larger and more engaged. We want to hold more regular public forums that are just on the book and available for the public on a regular basis all over the city. So that way you don't need to be trying to chase us down, but we will just have that public space. And we also want to align that public space with the Policy Advisory Committee, with the decisions that they're making within the NOPD. So that way we can hold a public forum, get feedback on the different policies that are up for review, and then provide that feedback to the Policy Advisory Committee before they complete their review. And then we want to create a community collaborative committee or coalition. We just want to formalize the way that we're working with our community partners to ensure that we're engaging them more on the front end for problem solving reasons and information sharing, and to ensure that they're a part of more universal reviews. So this brings us to our 2024 requested budget and where we fit in the city structure. So the City Council asked for an overview of our board. This is our ethics review board. This is who we report to. We're outside of a chain of command from the mayor. We report to the ethics review board along with the Office of the Inspector General. Currently, the ethics review board needs to fill 3 seats. There's 3 individuals whose term appointments have been completed and 1 chair seat that's actually sitting empty. And so we're waiting for those appointments. But we do meet with the Ethics Review Board monthly. Those meetings are public and anyone can attend. This is an overview of where our budget fits in terms of the general fund and under the City Home Rule Charter. So the ethics, our little quadrant of the city government, we receive 0.75% of the general fund. 0.04% goes to the Ethics Review Board, 0.55% goes to the Office of the Inspector General, and 0.16% goes to the Office of the Independent Police Monitor. This year, we will be receiving an anticipated increase in our funds, and we intend to use that to further all of the projects that we outlined and to be able to execute more of our hiring vision to be able to better serve the community and the NOPD. So with that, we welcome any questions about our budget or about our vision for 2024.
I think we're good on the dais after asking you questions during your presentation. We'll go with Mr. Johnson, Mr. Parker, and Mr. Burnside. Mr. Johnson, you want to make a comment, sir? Thank you.
W.C. Johnson, 1645 Gentilly Boulevard with New Orleans United Front. I'm sure by now most of you know that personally and organizationally, I don't give kudos very often.
Did, but I might not.
In fact, they are far and few between. But I must say that Stella Cement and her taking over the Office of the Independent Police Monitor has been a refreshing adjustment in this city. She has done work that we have wanted to see coming out of governmental agencies over the years. Now, my request and suggestion to you as the council is to support her, give her what she needs, and allow her to continue to operate. She is a model. Her organization is a model for governmental organizations in New Orleans and probably throughout this nation. But you have a star, so let's see what you do with a resource that is doing something not only for us individually, but for our city as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Parker and then Mr. Burnside.
This is a loaded committee. Thank you very much, Ed Parker, New Orleans United Front. And we're here again to second Brother Johnson's congratulatory and a great Office of Police Monitor. Thank you for the work that you guys are doing. Please, council, whatever they need, give them. And when you guys get ready to take a picture, please, I want to be involved. Thank y'all for what y'all doing. And when is the next Ethics Review Board meeting? Please.
November, I believe it will be November 13th, but actually OIPM leadership will be in Chicago at a national training during that time. But it's November 13th, and I believe it will be here in this room.
In Chambers.
It's November.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Burnside.
So this is somewhat similar to the JJIC in the sense that I don't have direct contact and don't know a great deal other than what was presented here today. I was allowed to hear the Office of Independent Monitor speak at the recent Citizens Police Academy, but that's the only time that I have met her or know her or been made aware of her work. I listened to her here today talk about her need and her board's need to be independent from the city council in regards to funding, in the hopes that she will achieve that independence through some sort of homeroom charter amendment. But I'll point out the obvious, which is currently we pay for her office. So if we wish to reduce her funds or increase her funds, we could do so. So I don't see her as currently independent of the council and its funding stream, and therefore find it odd to suggest that any increase would somehow decrease her independence, particularly given her goals. She seems to have a very goal-driven presentation here today that seems to me to require staffing to implement. I'm very glad to see the city organizational structure truncated. I'm very sad to see that there are 3 appointments that need to be made, and I don't understand who makes the appointments. Obviously, the individuals themselves come from universities, so it may be that says they're appointed from University of New Orleans.
They're appointed by specific universities, so they're not from universities, they're appointed by the university.
The language says from, but that's fine. So my point is that there's much here I do not know. But what I do know is that I'm in favor of elected officials. I'm in favor of them being responsible, and I'm in favor of the President of the United States being the Commander-in-Chief of the United States Army. So at some level, those who are coming up through the ranks, whether it's a lieutenant or a general, need to understand that presidents change, and with the presidency change, so changes the direction the U.S. military may be pointed at. May be pointed at Russia or may be pointed at China, depending on who's president. And that's why electing presidents really matters and changes things that are important. I see a little red light up there, which is surprising because I can't believe 2 minutes has passed, but I have other things that I wanted to say, but I will just let them go for now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Chevalier?
Yeah, Val, yeah, I just, part of United Front who's all about oversight and accountability. An office like this is definitely necessary, and from the presentation, I see she's got vacancies and probably underfunded. I think you ought to give this lady what she needs so that we can be assured that the police are gonna be policed until we come from under this consent decree thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, police monitor team. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, coroner is supposed to be next. I don't see them just yet. We'll give it a minute or two. So while we're waiting to see what happens, I know everybody's braced with excitement for next week where it'll be all budget hearings. On Monday, we will have criminal district court judges, the sheriff, criminal clerk, health department, and the library.
It's up. Oh. I don't know if he's coming by himself. I just need a picture. You're welcome.
Man, you said it, I like to know too, but make a law, they didn't do that law coming back at them without.
I don't think it was. I do not.
All right, we have the coroner's materials, which we will submit for anybody who wants to look at those publicly. We are just gonna assume an emergency arose that prevented the coroner from arriving on time. We haven't heard anything just yet. So if he wants to participate, his office would like to participate at a later time, obviously we'll do that. So we will stand at ease till 9:30 on Monday. Thank you, everybody.